It's Sweet Baby J here with a 20X Tech Talk. Today we're going to take a quick look at can you do a custom loop on one of those Alphacool Eisbaer AIO pumps. I did a stream on this and we're going to go through it real quick. So here's the Alphacool Eisbaer LT. To give it the best chance, I was going to go through it and I was going to upgrade the fittings. So those are not the stock fittings on there. I've got some larger fittings for a 1/2-inch ID tube, and they are absolutely going to help with the airflow. The Alphacool fittings that are on there are garbage. They are tiny. They have a 6.25 millimeter ID, which is like 31 millimeters square. These barrel fittings that I have on there are 9.5 millimeters ID, and they give you an overall cross-sectional area of 71 millimeters squared versus that 31 millimeters. So that's like a 2.3 times increase in cross-sectional area. And I was just doing that to help remove any impedance that you're going to see, because the biggest disadvantage with these AIOs is that your pump is super weak. Now here I'm just commenting on how when you put them together, you just want to make sure it seals, and when you put it into your blocks, you want to just crush that O-ring. That O-ring getting crushed is what gives you that sealing. And also too, when you put your tubes on and you put that fitting over top for your soft tubes, that's what's going to give you that sealing on those. You don't have to over torque it like crazy. You just crank it down until it just seats. You don't have to go any further than that, or else you might crack a block. You might strip a thread. You don't want to be doing that. So here I am just trying to fill it up, doing some distilled water, because this is just a temporary test. I want to run a test on this, see how the flow is from the pump. If there's actually like half decent flow, I'm going to hook this up to a computer and I'm going to be running it. And now here's one of the issues with these tiny LT Eisbaers. They have a tiny res. It's very difficult to fill. It's a long process, especially when I'm doing it here. I know there's a much better, easier way. I got tubes kinked. I'm trying to do this. You need some sort of flow here. I could have pre-filled the blocks, pre-filled the rad, and so I'm just getting this ready so I can run a test on it. I'm just doing a visual test on stream. Now this test is like worst case in a sense as well, because I've got a front and back plate. So this has active backplate cooling, which is another sort of impedance for flow. And like I said before, the flow from these pumps is your biggest downfall when you're trying to use one of these AIOs. Alphacool, usually when they are doing their linked-in loops of this, they have their Alphacool Ice Block for their GPUs, which has another pump in it. So that's just going to boost your flow again. So that's why they can do that. And I was thinking, hey, why not just have one pump running, see if this pump is good enough to try and get those performance numbers. So I just decided to get this in there, nice smooth flows, and I decided to run it. I ran, this is a 3090 here, MSI Supreme X, and it has the active backplate because you have that memory on the back, which is super annoying to cool, but hey, this will help keep it all cool, all good all the time. And I'm just trying to bleed it out now. And so I did actually end up hooking this up to a PC, ran superposition, benchmark, tried to get heat soak into the whole system, and I had some fans running at 100% on that 360 mil rad. It's 25 mil thick. It's the stock rad from the Alphacool Eisbaer LT 360. And what I noticed is that the system, which is running around, it was running around like 430 watts power draw on the GPU. I didn't have the block on a CPU, so imagine like a 430 watt system overall. So think like a 3080 with a mid-range to high-range CPU, or even like a 3070 with like a higher-end CPU running possibly overclocked. You could sort of calculate it out. I'm not really going to calculate it out right now because we're going fast, all right? And really what it was it was sitting at like 60 degrees Celsius, which is kind of toasty. It's a little bit hotter than the actual stock cooler, so you're kind of not really getting a benefit. One of the big benefits from a custom loop is you get nice cool temperatures. Now, there's another benefit, which is space savings. So if you have like one of those 4000 series cards with like a 4-slot GPU cooler and you can only fit like a 2-slot, you might want to think about this. This could work for that. Especially if it's like a 4070 Ti, maybe a 4080 that you're not planning on overclocking, and with sort of a lower power consumption CPU, so like maybe a 7700X or 13700F. Just going, I'm like checking the pump sounds, so the pump's not really sounding too bad, but you can hear some air bubbles in there, so I'm just like, oh, let's see how the flow goes. And really, you're not going to get a big benefit. I added all these fittings, which is kind of against the point. You're going to spend more on fittings if you were to try and duplicate this. These fittings here all will like add a significant amount of cost to it. You're better off just getting another GPU block from Alphacool and running that if you wanted to do like a custom-esque loop. But if you wanted to go full custom loop, get a D5 pump from like AliExpress. Those things are great. I'm just showing my current setup there. And you know, you just get that and that will actually end up doing it. It's not worth it. It can't run it off that single thing. Even with these bigger, double the flow coolant fittings, it just doesn't have the flow to do it. And you might have better luck with the full-size Alphacool Eisbaer, but still, it's a shot in the dark, and I don't think it's worth it because you're going to spend a lot on fittings to get that that extra flow. So I would say don't do it. It's not worth it. But if you need to save space, you can kind of do it, and it'll work. Thank you for watching, everybody, and I just want to say like, share, subscribe if you want to support the channel. There's a link to my wife's art channel, which has amazing art. Check it out. It is amazing. You will not regret it. You guys, I just want to say thank you again for watching. This is my first short, so let me know in the comments below what you think of it. Do you want more? Let's do this.